Hello, everybody, and I got my Hawaiian shirt on, so aloha. All right, um, let's talk about a lesson I did not think I would learn, and a teacher I did not think would teach me any lessons. Fred Villarri, the late Grandmaster Fred Villarri, a man who has just taken an incredible amount of shit when he was alive, and now that he's passed, YouTube trolls and comment sections everywhere. But I learned a lesson from him. How? I'd never met the man, and I've only seen a couple of his schools and met a few of his practitioners. It's through the internet. Periodically, what I do is I get interested in the style, and YouTube, for free, I can get all the forms, most of the techniques, sparring footage, conditioning exercises, all kinds of things on the style. And recently, for the past month or so, I reconnected with Villari's Shaolin Kempo. In the past, sometimes for 4 or 5 months at a time, I'd be like, let me learn a couple of his forms, or if I had a partner to train with, let's try these techniques. Why not? Right? Um, and recently I said, let me just do a whole survey of the system, and that's what I've been doing, just watching footage of him, his students, but mostly a lot of footage of him. There used to be a long clip of him working out in a studio with red carpets, mirrors. He had a black gi top and I think red pants and, sneakers, and he was just going through every form in his system, and then he was going through a whole bunch of self-defense techniques with a partner, and I was blown away. I was like, this guy's supposed to be nonsense, and his forms were good, sharp, crisp. I think I made a video about it. His kicks, his high kicks, were very good and precise, especially considering he's a Kenpo guy, and most Kenpo guys, whether it's Chinese, American, or Japanese, just they're not into high kicks, especially high side kicks, hook kicks, spinning hook kicks. It's just not necessary for the style, but he was fantastic at it. And when he did two-man techniques, he had a lot of speed and power and just really good control. A lot of his blows were barely landing on someone, and they would just stop and terminate and flow back out again. When you consider it's karate, more or less recreational slash self defense martial arts, as far as that standard goes, he's a superior black belt, a master in my book, especially considering he created his style. And the folks, around 92, 91, 92, I got into Kung Fu, and I've been at it ever since, and I never stopped my karate and taekwondo. And the Kung Fu parts of his forms and techniques are as legit as they can be. So his style really is a meld of Kung Fu and karate, kempo, all the things. And I saw a clip of him doing Western boxing, modern boxing. He looked great considering he's not a pro boxer, right? So what's the lesson though? What's the thing I got? First of all, you if you want to stay sane, all right, in the martial arts as you get older. I'm 55 now. If you're 50, 60, and you're still training, first of all, congratulations. If you're watching my video in a house and you're not homeless, right, and you have kept up this practice into your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you are an exceptional martial artist, way above the crowd. Most people are into it 6 months and get out. Many people get a black belt or its equivalent and get out. Some people have a teaching career that maybe lasts 10 years and they get out, or a competitive career. A lot of good competitive careers, professional martial arts, boxing. I mean, you're lucky if they last 5 or 6 years, and with some people, they're taking so much punishment, they're unlucky if it lasts more than 4 years, right? So if you're watching this video from a house, an apartment, you're not homeless, um, and you've managed to keep practicing, you are an exceptional human being. If you're a woman and you've done this, you are, you know, above even the men that stayed in it this long because the odds are against you, right? And how do you stay sane and relevant? Stick to what you do, expand what you can, right? There's nothing wrong if you can find a school and instructor or private lessons that can accommodate your limitations as an older person and allow you to learn something new. If you're enjoying it, do it. But there's nothing wrong past a certain age of just practicing kata or practicing your kicks low or middle, practicing the things you like and keeping it up. No one should expect you to be a full contact cage fighter, really past 35. That's not productive. You should be a teacher. And if you're a teacher, if you're capable of teaching, even if you're 80, if you're 80 and capable of teaching somebody something, you probably should pass it on, right? There's coming to be a resurgence of traditional martial arts. Guys like Kevin Lee, Sensei Seth, the karate nerd Jesse Enkamp, all these guys are kind of drawing the modern MMA generation, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing-oriented people back into the fold of traditional martial arts, and its value is starting to be seen again and making a resurgence. So don't be afraid to show people. Find the right people. Doesn't have to be just any schlub off the street. But the final lesson, the lesson that I've learned from watching all of this Villarri stuff is he was denigrated all of his life. But yet, I think he's one of the most successful martial artists out there. Why do I say that? He lived to 78. Ed Parker, God bless him, I think didn't make it past 63 or something. And Joe Louis, I think, I'm not even sure if he made it past his 50s or early 60s, right? So he outlived them. And his schools, there's maybe thousands of them throughout the US and Canada. That's most of a continent, right? I suspect South America has people that trained with him. I don't know how on the radar they are, and if overseas, you never know. For all I know, there could be a Shaolin Kempo school from Villarri somewhere in Japan or Germany or somewhere. It's hard to tell. So he practiced throughout his life. If you look at his early videos in the 70s and then 80s, 90s, 2000s, he's roughly the same shape. Yeah, he got older, maybe a little bit more of a belly, but he never got truly out of shape while that camera was on him, and it was on him a long time. And he kept his skills up, to a very high level in each age bracket. He kept on teaching, right? I met a Villarri Kempo person once when I was in boot camp. I don't remember the guy's name. He was a tall kid, older than the typical, recruit in boot camp, and he was kind of hard looking and had tattoos, and he was actually married and had kids. And I remember we had a conversation about our lives in a rare, unsupervised spare moment. I think it might have been a Sunday while everybody was off at church or something. And, he said one of the pivotal events in his life and one of the things that allowed him to get in the Marine Corps was Villarri's Kempo, Fred Villarri's Kempo system. He said he was very overweight and not confident, and he took up Villarri's Kempo and lost all the weight. He became a cook, got a regular job, got married, and, I think he might have gotten the lady pregnant first and then kind of straightened his act, got married, made the kid his actual son, and then decided to go in a military career to help himself and his family. and he graduated boot camp. I don't know what happened to him, right? But that story stuck with me. And again, barely knew anything about Fred Villarri Kempo, but a lot of what I heard in the magazines and people were like, "This guy is nonsense." Another thing is, don't be afraid to forge your own way, make your own rules, and define your own terms, right? He's not teaching Shaolin Kung Fu. He's not teaching Shotokan. He taught Villari's Shaolin Kempo system. And it's a conglomeration of all he knew. But pretty much that's anything anybody ever teaches. Even if they teach the same curriculum their teacher did, they teach differently, right? Another thing, yeah, he's self-promoted 12th Dan. I mean, what do you do if you create a system that spreads across most of a continent, 2/3 of a continent, right? What do you do if from coast to coast and everything in between, from north to south and everything in between, there's a Fred Villarri school, maybe, multiple ones in every state? I mean, can you call yourself just a black belt? Okay, let alone Canada, right? Here's another clue. Jigoro Kano Jigoro, however you want to say his name, founder of judo, created the Dan system. And, you know, he didn't test for his Dans, right? He was a 10th Dan. I maybe ranked himself higher. Jigoro Kano, who took the Dan system, I think from the board game of Go, and converted it to something judo could use, said, theoretically, there is an unlimited amount of levels in the dance system because there's an unlimited potential for learning. In Japan, the first black belts, the first Dan holders in Shotokan, in Judo, in Kendo, in Nihon Jiu-Jitsu, in modern Goju-Ryu, Shito-Ryu, in Okinawa, I mean, the system had to be created, and some people may have tested for it. Many people, anything above 4th Dan in Japan, 4th or 5th, is honorary. I think it's the same in Korea. And so, you don't have to test for it often. Many people do. When I got my 7th Dan, I said, in order to test for it, I'm going to compete again. I'm going to come out of retirement at 54 and compete in forms, weapon, and fighting as a senior black belt. And I got 3 gold medals, and I made a video about that. But I mean, I didn't have to, but I chose to. My 4th Dan test in Goju Daute was a full contact sparring match with late Ed Youngsa, right? So there it is. So, if you teach 2/3 of a continent, you can't just be a 5th Dan. You may not just be a 10th Dan. And, I think it's actually legit. Looking back on the entirety of Fred Villarri's life, I'm like, this man was a successful, impactful martial artist. This man was actually a role model. I look at his tapes, I'm like, monkey style, leopard style, crane style, taekwondo style kicks, karate kicks, Muay Thai style kicks, everything, boxing. I see him demonstrate a plethora of skills, anti-weapon skills, anti-grappling skills. And I'm like, he did this his whole life. And then when he died, if you look at all the videos, all the comment sections, all the boards about people mourning his loss, people saying, this man made such an impact in my life. This man made such an impact in my daughter, in my son, in my cousin. People that never trained with him talked about how their family and people in their family became healthier, more empowered, more confident, more social, more successful as a result of sometimes even very short term contact with him or one of his schools. All right? So, you know, don't be afraid to go your own way. If you're a martial artist, especially an older one, there's nothing wrong with touching base with the old stuff, right? There's nothing wrong with learning something new. Or, for example, if you're in your 50s and you can find a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school, and particularly if you spend a couple of months, strengthening your neck, your muscles, putting some time in the calisthenics and weights and stretching out, getting some cardio, and then joining, and maybe if you can afford it, taking private lessons for a while, do it if that's what you want to do. But there's nothing wrong with just doing kata, doing your weapons, doing your techniques, doing your tai chi, whatever it is. It got you this far. Do what you can of it, get what you can out of it, teach who you can. And here's another thing: if you're capable of, if you have actual information, wisdom that people don't seem to be getting, that they could be getting out of the martial arts, write about it, blog about it, make videos about it. It'll be here when you're gone if you pass it the right way. Personally, I'm inspired by all the videos I'm seeing of him. He was what I call a crouching tiger, a hidden dragon, someone whose talent and skills are obscured for many people, but certainly not from the world and not his students, right? It is recreational martial arts. If you want to be a full contact fighter, I don't think the best route is to only train at a Villarri studio. If you want to be a great grappler, you have to go to a grappling school. If you want to be a cage fighter at some point, you have to do MMA. But the techniques are legit. Forms, many of them are a combination of power, functionality, and beauty, right? And certainly there's developmental challenges. It's not my style, but I see not just the validity in it, but the validity and the impact of the life of the man who developed it, right? So, folks, um, that's really all I have to say on the topic. Grandmaster Villarri, wherever he is, if he's anywhere, whatever it is, I mean, this is in your memory, okay? So, and another message to my good friend Jose Gonzalez, my brother, my friend, my mentor, my elder in the martial arts. Um, Again, you have a knowledge of kata from Preston Carter. You have a knowledge of old school and new school techniques. You can learn new nutrition ideas, use of new equipment like the bob. But you have all this old stuff, and there's nothing wrong with revisiting it and re exploring it because it's built to last. The old karate and kung fu was designed to be done for a lifetime. A lot of the new karate and the new wushu with all the acrobatics, it just tears your body apart past a certain point. You just can't do it forever, right? Nobody can cage fight actual fights, and spar hard with contact for decades and decades without damaging themselves. But the training and the old methods, stretching, the breathing, it's for a lifetime, right? And it's not just enhancing the length of your life, but the quality of your life, right? Jose, so yeah, I made this video for the general audience, but specifically to you, my friend. You're doing some great things. You're writing a book about Preston Carter, and there's some work with a screenplay and things like that. Just drive on, man. I really look forward to seeing what you do, and to you, my audience out there, I really look forward to hearing how your continued practice has helped you and the people around you. And if it hasn't, it should be. Get involved with something. All right, folks, you have a good night. Labor Day is tomorrow, and enjoy your holiday. Have a good one.